So welcome again to the online Boston Roadshow. Thank you for those of you who joined online. I think more of you will join. So I'm Simone from UPFL Innovation Park, and I'm the project manager here at Tech4Eva. So I believe some of you already know me. Today's agenda, we're going to present and showcase some of the startups of 2023. So they will have the time to pitch to you, and then we will have a panel discussion on the consumerization of healthcare and what it means for Femtech. And we will also have a fireside chat with one of the alumni companies from 2021, Test4Eva Health. So looking forward to hearing more how she's progressing since then. So for those of you who don't know Tech4Eva, our mission is to accelerate women's health innovation worldwide. Although we are Swiss-based here in Lausanne at the UPFL campus, Tech4Eva is a 9-month equity-free international startup acceleration program with a global reach through our network partners. And to our startups, we offer knowledge and visibility through workshops, peer-to-peer sessions, events like these today. They also have access to great mentors that come from the corporate and business world. And we've been trying to build as well a community the last 3 years. And we're looking forward to having another program next year. So we are launching the call for application very soon. And we're looking for companies in all areas, including pregnancy, period health, fertility, menopause, mental health, prevention, immune and heart diseases, oncology, and much more. So if you know of any companies or if you have a solution yourself, just watch out for the next call for application. So as mentioned, we have a global reach through some of our partners, which are mainly corporates as well as communities around the world. So here are their logos. The startups in the program meet some investors and customers and experts through roadshows like today. So this year we went to Paris, Tel Aviv, India, and today Boston. We also had the chance the last 2 years to meet in person at some other events such as Viva Tech or other conferences around the world in Basel, Paris, and Tel Aviv. So that's been a lot of fun, and that is helping to build the community. So even though it's a virtual accelerator, I think there is something to be said to meet in person and have a drink somewhere together. So Tech4Eva has some US alumni already. So Amber Lab, from which you will hear a bit more later on, as well as Truly, Teal Health, and 4Eva. And we have a few in our current cohort as well, from which we'll hear later on through the pitches. So here are the logos and names of this cohort. They come from 9 different countries, and we're looking forward to hearing their pitches. This year we had an additional pilot Global South cohort of 5 startups. These are startups that are addressing challenges in the Global South area, and we did this cohort because we had a lot of applicants from these regions, and there's a clear need for more solutions in these regions. So now I'll leave the floor to the first group and their pitches. So I will stop my share.
High blood pressure disorders during pregnancy is the #2 killer, taking the lives of thousands of pregnant mothers and their unborn and newborn babies. 1 in 12 pregnancies are affected. 1 in 6 babies are born preterm, not only directly costing lives, but also indirectly affecting society. The Center for Disease Control estimates 3 out of 4 of these deaths are preventable. Together, we can prevent these maternal deaths by leveraging technology to better monitor health vitals during pregnancy and postpartum, sharing guidelines for moms and their caretakers to know more about hypertensive pregnancy disorders, symptoms, and care through referring women to a hospital that offers higher level of maternity care, and identifying and predicting which moms are at high risk early on, before week 27 in pregnancy, using electronic health records and artificial intelligence to help doctors. Adira Health provides impact for moms and their caretakers during and after pregnancy. We serve
I am
moms
watching.
who face complications and do not have access to advanced healthcare facilities. We leverage non-invasive, remotely collected clinical, general health, and mental health data starting at the first pregnancy checkup. This enables caretakers to provide truly data-driven, personalized care journeys outside of the clinics for their patients and families. Now, the combination of the power of artificial intelligence with a perinatal care coach who follows up on the health progress has the potential to lead to better pregnancy outcomes and save lives. We invite you to join us in our endeavor to save moms and babies' lives. Thank you.
Like many women, I had difficulty getting pregnant. After 2 years of treatment, my situation only got worse. You see, most of the fertility drugs were developed for use of no longer than 6 months. Instead, they're often used 2 to 5 years and can actually cause other forms of infertility, such as tooth and endometrium. The endometrium is like a topsoil inside of the uterus. It's a layer of blood vessels where the fertilized egg implants and is nourished. And just like topsoil, if this layer is too thin, the egg cannot implant and it dies. 26 million women worldwide suffer from this form of infertility due to natural or medical causes. This is about 1 in every 7 women. It's a well-known problem, but today there is no viable cure. I am Loanna Hasseltine, and I have created a patented device called LumaWomb. LumaWomb regenerates endometrial cells. Using near-infrared light, we're able to cure tooth and endometrium. Phototherapy is similar to photosynthesis. LumaWomb's light penetrates deep into the uterus, stimulating and healing endometrial cells. Our market is B2B, selling to equipment to OBGYNs. Worldwide, these practices spend $28 billion yearly in medical devices. LumaWomb has a retail cost of $40,000 with a 60% margin. Calculating a 10% penetration, we'll have a turnover of $56 million in just the US alone. Added revenue will come from consumables. LumaWomb offers clinics a strong value proposal. A one-time investment will provide clinics an annual return of more than 5 times their investment. Clinics will become competitive as their success rates improve, and patients will reduce the number of treatments needed to get pregnant. We are a team with the assets and the experience to facilitate this innovative and low-cost cure. Today, 26 million couples are locked out of parenthood, and LumaWomb's mission is to offer these couples the key to open that door.
Hi, I'm Penelope Finney. We believe all bodily functions should be treated the same way. We don't carry toilet paper around, so why should we have to carry around period products? We manufacture pads on a roll, a patented product that can be dispensed in every stall as easily as toilet paper. Periods are unpredictable. All women have been caught without a product when they are away from home, when they are at work, when they are at school. As a result, 23% of students don't come to school or leave school because of no period products. And everyone has had a negative experience with the vending machines that are sometimes out by the sink as they are broken, jammed, or empty. As a result, over 20 states have required that Schools have to provide free period products. Prisons and shelters in some cities are being required to have free period products, and several cities such as Washington, D.C., Ann Arbor, Michigan, Austin, Texas, and El Paso are requiring that free period products exist in public buildings. We have been selling our products since February and are now working with several very large distributors across the country. We are in several school districts across the country, several large universities. We are now working with several cities and towns to provide free period products, as well as libraries and other businesses. We work with nonprofits in order to spread the word via advocates. So far, we have raised $2 million, and we have done all of this with 5 people. With the additional $10 million we would like to raise, we would like to build a non-prototype machine, add some more marketing people, increase our marketing budget, and work globally with the EU and UK, Africa, and Asia, as those are countries that have really expressed a lot of interest. And we would like to work on the patent globally. We are a team with a lot of experience, and we thank you for your time.
Hi everyone, I'm Nitya, co-founder of Rue Medical. We are on a mission to build transformative technologies for menopausal women. Menopause is a natural phenomenon that every woman has to go through. It comes with a long list of 34 recognized symptoms, of which hot flashes are the most common one. 75 to 80% of women suffer from this disruptive symptom on a daily basis. We at Rue Medical chose to solve this very problem and provide women with a comfortable, hands-free, and most importantly, an effective solution. CoolZen is a smart wearable that automatically detects the onset of a hot flash episode and provides instant relief using localized cooling effect. This, in turn, triggers the body's natural cooling mechanism to kick in and arrest the hot flash episode. It is worn on the back of the neck using a disposable adhesive strip, making it extremely discreet and easy to forget about. Early trials have shown 80% reduction in both duration and intensity of a hot flash episode. The duration of the episode has gone down from around 3 to 5 minutes on average to under 30 seconds. Our proprietary AI helps personalize this very therapy to every single woman using our smart sensor system. We understand that menopause cannot have a one-size-fits-all solution. Our technology is patent pending and has recently been UKCA and CE certified, making it ready for commercialization. We also have an app platform, Unpause, that allows women to manage their device, but also journal and track their other menopausal symptoms and treatments. Unlike any other product on the market, CoolZen requires no user intervention and works seamlessly to provide effective and instant relief. We plan to sell directly to women, making our solution extremely accessible through our website and various e-commerce platforms. So join us in our mission to unpause menopause.
Why is that some of us can cope with challenges in life, while others develop anxiety, burnouts, depression, sleep disorders? The answer is not in our brain, but in our gut. Today, most people with mental conditions do not improve. Here are the sad numbers. 40% of society suffer from mental problems. Only 25% are seeking help, and of those, up to 90% do not improve. The most important oversight is that people with mental conditions are not assessed for neurometabolic deficiencies in their gut, despite the fact that nutrients from foods are the essential building blocks of our mental health, and that our food is deficient in those essential nutrients. This is why we have developed and validated in a human pilot the first end-to-end neurometabolic assessment, interventions, and monitoring. Here's in short our solution. The neurometabolic assessment consists of a symptom questionnaire and the objective analysis of 25 neurobiomarkers in 4 dried urine probes taken by the customers at home. We process those 2 data sets digitally. Based thereon, a neurometabolic intervention is designed, consisting of personalized nutritional plans and nutraceuticals, or functional food products. Our solution brings superior effectiveness into diagnosis or assessments and treatments of mental issues. Here is an example. Today, when persons with anxiety visit their specialist, they are assessed based on a subjective questionnaire, and they are typically treated with anti-anxiety medications and therapies. With our assessment, we see at least 3 metabolically different types of anxiety, which require different neurometabolic nutritional treatments, which, not surprisingly, bring superior effectiveness and improvement. Now, where are we on our journey to market? We prepare 2 clinical studies with expert teams of universities and hospitals. We prepare pilot projects and collaborations in different validated B2B2C channels. We work on finalizing our 2 million francs seed round, and we build the team that can deliver our ambitious business plan. Please join us to improve the mental health of millions by improving their metabolic health. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Bartholomew, and I'm the CEO of Tech4Eva Health. And when I was diagnosed with cervical cancer at 28 years old and was handed a painful 84-year-old device called the static dilator that 1 in 3 women will be given to help with their pelvic health complications, I knew women deserved better. Tech4Eva has created the first patented data-driven pelvic rehab system that includes a multi-therapy biosensor-based vaginal wand paired with a patient mobile app, which is remote monitored by clinicians using our software portal. And this tracks proprietary data set of gynecological markers. This device has significantly impacted pelvic symptoms for patients in early testing and will be targeting women with endometriosis, pelvic cancer, and vaginismus, while improving clinicians' functions and increasing revenue for pelvic floor physios, cancer centers, and OBGYNs. We're the only device on the $12 billion dilator market performing multiple therapies, collecting novel biosensor data, and conducting remote therapeutic monitoring in the area of pelvic health. And we're making this happen with our talented team supported by leading KOLs and industry experts. I'm a 2-time entrepreneur with previous exits, leading a team of 14 majority female and diverse members. And our traction has been significant with 107 secured LOIs with clinicians in 4 hospitals, 7 different clinical trials on the go, and 770 patients on our waiting list. We recently closed our seed round of funding, which will get us a regulated, clinically validated, and commercial-ready product for our 2024 launch of Tech4Eva. And we're currently seeking investor connections for our future Series A round. Thank you so much for your time today.
My name is Josefa. I'm a designer and founded Palpa during my degree project when Jovita, a very close person to me, felt something on her breast, but she kept telling herself it was a fat lump and ignored it. Years later, she found out that the same lump had evolved into a 4th-stage breast cancer. Every 15 seconds, a woman is diagnosed with this disease, and every year more than 200,000 cases are diagnosed in women under the 40s, women like me that can't have mammograms and can only self-exam. But almost none of them does it every month, mainly because they don't know how to do it and neither remember to do it. So that is how and why I designed Palpa, an educational device that can be used in the shower to train breast self-exam and to remember it. So you fill the silicone breast with liquid soap, and inside of it, you can feel the simulation of a tumor. While you touch the breast, the soap will be released through the massager, so you can massage your body and then try to find something similar as the tumor, but in your own breast. And also, you can have a better sliding and skin sense over the breast because of the soap. So Palpa helps creating habits since a younger age so women can know their bodies and distinguish changes on time. Being the only domestic product that simulates also a tumor and train breast self-exam gave us an invention patent. Our revenue model today consists in wholesale for companies seeking to do social campaigns in human resources area or marketing campaigns. Also, we partner with public governments, so we can reach women who can't access the product, neither education by their own means. And finally, direct to consumer for all women who wants to begin this journey of breast healthcare. So since October of 2021, we've reached over 75,000 women, partnered with more than 100 companies, and 12 women detected tumors. Now the next step is to take Pulp outside of Chile in order to reach women around the world, because far beyond a product, it is a change of culture and mind.
I'm Claire Dixon, the CEO and co-founder of Neurora. I'm driven to make a difference in women's health because of my own journey with infertility. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, is one of the most profound chronic health conditions. Loop by Neurora will be the first effective and widely accessible solution. A bioelectronic wearable translating the research of our advisor, Dr. Stena Victorian, and validated in our own preliminary human studies. It'll leverage Neurora's patented microelectrode technology in a device that's easy to use and available over the counter without a prescription. We've already confirmed a 510K regulatory pathway and pre-sales of up to $1 million from a leading Canadian online pharmacy. Affecting almost 1 in 5 women, PCOS is a large white space commercial opportunity, but our impact doesn't end there. Later, targeting prediabetes and diabetes in a reimbursed weekly disposable. We're seeking qualified investors for our seed raise and channel partners in the US and other jurisdictions. Thank you.
If you're interested in learning more about these companies, you can check them out on our website. And I'm happy to make an introduction if you are interested in any of the founders' companies. Now we're moving on to the panel on the topic of consumerization of healthcare. And I'm pleased to introduce Sana Rao, who is the moderator of this session. She's also a mentor of the Tech4Eva program, and she leads the consumer-centric solutions strategy at Philips. Prior to Philips, she focused also on digital health and consumer experiences in healthcare at Accenture. So Sapna, I leave the floor to you to introduce the panelists, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Simone, and hello, everyone. We're very excited to be here with you all today. As Simone shared, Sapna Rao, been with Philips for about 5 years now, and my role, which focuses on consumer health strategy, is really about empowering consumers to engage in their health and well-being in the home. So very excited about this topic that we have today. I'll maybe just turn it directly to our panelists to introduce themselves, maybe starting with Liz.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Gazda. I'm the CEO of Ember Labs. We produce this beautiful wearable device that you see on the inside of my wrist, which is capable of stopping a menopausal hot flash in its tracks. It also helps with sleep and anxiety and a number of other chronic conditions, including hot flashes associated with the treatment of cancer. I'm happy to be here today with my fellow panelists. Thank you for having me.
Josh, you want to go next?
Yeah, happy to. Hello, everyone. Josh Kraus. I'm a leader in our health strategy practice at Accenture. So focus a lot on growth and innovation. So working with payers, providers, anyone else trying to get into the delivery or financing of care. I think I will have a different lens, but I think complementary to Dominique and Liz today on what we're seeing in the industry when it relates to consumerization and hopefully a good future.
Great, and Dominique.
Hi, Sapna. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be here with my peers and also just the collection of founders and leaders that I've heard from today. Thank you to everyone for all you do. My name is Dominique Karetsos. I'm the co-creator of 3 companies dedicated to investment, innovation, and education. In our industry, which we call sexual health and women's health and technology, you might know it as Femtech. Those companies are Amboy Street Venture Fund, Healthy Pleasure Group, which is a professional advisory company, having launched a lot of these startups across the globe, and MintHub, a B2B innovation hub. But I would like to put a bit of a caveat, because when I talk about sexual health and tech, I really am referring to anything that addresses us humans between the belly button and the knees. So no longer a segmented, fragmented market. And I'm just really excited to hear from everyone today. And let's talk about us, consumers and humans that really count.
Excellent. Great to have you all here. Thanks again for your time. Maybe to set a bit of context on, what is healthcare consumerization, Liz, I'll turn it over to you to speak to some of the key trends that you've seen that really shapes the age we're in today. And you might need to come off mute.
That's a good idea. As a device company addressing a condition like menopause that is so widespread, we often receive the questions from investors why we were not going to become a regulated device. And the answer was very easy, because when we looked around at the trends that we were seeing in healthcare, we saw actually a big push towards consumerization of healthcare. And we see this really driven by a number of trends. First and foremost, we all know about Dr. Google. When people have health conditions, they tend to go online and immediately search for their own solutions. And so consumers have become very adept at finding their way around medical conditions. We also see a kind of Amazon effect with consumers, whereby consumers have become very used to an immediate solution, receiving something overnight on their doorstep to solve their problem. And so that is also, I think, built in an expectation on the part of consumers that when they want something solved, they want it immediately. This has been coupled really with some other trends that we're seeing on the other side of healthcare, which is there has been recently in the last 10 years a number of lawsuits and things happening in the pharmaceutical industry that has built a bit of distrust when it comes to classical pharma industries. I think we're all aware of the opioid crisis that occurred a number of years ago, where pharma seemed to have some knowledge of what was going on. And so consumers started to build a sort of distrust around what they were hearing from established pharma. And when we look at also the number of founders here today that are addressing women's health problems in particular, many female consumers have felt overlooked by the medical community. And so the combination of all these trends coming together has created an atmosphere where consumers are looking to solve their own problems. And this is what I consider to be the key trends around the consumerization of healthcare.
Great, thanks, Liz. And you did highlight that women in particular often feel underserved by the healthcare system, and that's no surprise when thinking about the gap in health data, specifically related to the female body or how females may experience certain conditions, historic underfunding of female health and women's health startups. But maybe I'll turn it over to Dominique to give us a bit of an optimistic perspective and the reality of really what is the value of this market that we call femtech, women's health, that's really emerged on top of this trend of healthcare consumerization.
Let's start off by saying it is far more optimistic than what it was maybe a decade or even a century ago. So you've obviously touched on a few things, the worldwide obsession to own agency in health, or just categorically for women not being included in research. But if you fast forward and let's sort of take it back to the dreaded global threat to humanity, that definitely put a halo or a spotlight on people wanting to put their health preferences and make it a priority. And if you were fortunate enough to, sit under a roof and have access to internet, you wanted to be able or could and started to demand as a consumer 3 really important things. And one was availability. And by availability, I mean honest researched innovation, like we've heard from our founders today, and including Ember Labs, is honest innovation that works. So number one is we want innovation. We want solutions that are truly talking to us like we want to be spoken to and solving our problems. Number two is we want them accessible. So we saw a large drive and then a sort of a catapult, not only in demand, but in different forms of making accessibility. So whether it was telehealth, whether it was was, being able to read up on information, brands, a collective of founders coming out and really developing innovation and coming onto the dreaded internet, which is a very digitally censored landscape for a lot of our brands today, whether it's health, irrespective of the gender. So availability for innovation, accessibility, and then affordability. So today, 10 years ago, insurers weren't involved in taking care, or companies weren't involved in being part of our menopause solutions. Today, we have broken through on those conversations. Are we where we need to be? I think we can all categorically agree no, because we should be another 50 years ahead, and we're all driving for that. So availability, accessibility, and affordability is what the consumer is demanding from innovators and founders and leaders. And that trifecta between sex, health, and tech, or sexual health, or anything between the belly button and the knees, has to now be filled with education that is quantifiable, qualitative, and backed by investors. So now, just to close off and answer your question on valuation, previously, 10 years ago, we know that we had femtech, which was, I think, 50 million at the time. And then we have the menopause, and then we have erectile dysfunction, and then we have health tech and AI. So they're all categorically having their own valuations. Today, given the amount of exits, which is positive for us, exits and acquisitions, it means we have a consolidated billion-dollar industry, dare I say, economy, and it will be a trillion-dollar industry, because our priority for our health and wellness is here to stay. I think we've lost Sapna. It must have been something I said.
Josh, maybe you have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if on the trend side, I agree, I think, with what Dominique's saying. I think when I think about how things are picking up on the at least in the US within the payer and provider space, and thinking about where trends are, I do think we have seen quite a big shift over the past 5 years, and openness to embrace consumer-centric experience. I think a lot of that was from the outside. So a lot of the D2C digital health companies that I think, like Dominique, you were referencing around, like your Hims and Hers and Roe and 30 Madison, a lot on the sexual health and telehealth, and maybe on more primary and urgent care. Seeing it in the pharmacy space, even with Mark Cuban's new company around transparency. So there's a craving on knowing what I'm going to get for the amount of money, because there's this distrust, I think. But it's still challenging, I think, in the US, because we are living in a world where still half of us get our benefits through our employers, or seniors through Medicare. So there's a reality of you got to have a really loved product to thrive from a D2C perspective, or make the evolution from D2C to B2B or B2B2C, or to become an in-network provider, for instance. So I think there's lots of room for success and different business models. And I do think a lot of the traditional players are starting to embrace consumerization, things like digital front door, things like how you have hybrid care models where things are asynchronous as well as synchronous care. And then on the payer side, on narrow care models that are tailored for a specific population.
Great. And I'm back with everyone here. Dominique, you had mentioned the dreaded pandemic as having trained us in a lot of ways for consumerization of healthcare. I've indeed seen that in terms of having consumers take a very active role in doing diagnoses for themselves in the home. And of course, for me, being more adaptable when it comes to connectivity in sessions like this. But maybe could we talk a little bit about some of the specific examples or case studies you all might want to share around how you're seeing healthcare companies embrace consumerization from a product and solutioning perspective? Maybe Liz, I'll turn it over to you first.
Well, operating in the menopause space for me has been really interesting to see the emergence of a couple of companies here in the US that provide telemedicine appointments for a diagnosis of symptoms around menopause. And then the distribution of hormone replacement therapy direct to consumer based on a subscription without the reimbursement of insurance. So I think what's happening is women over the age of 50 who are very busy, probably at the peaks of their career, and don't want to take the time out to make an appointment with a physician, go into the office, then go pick up the prescription, have kind of done the mental math and said, gee, if I am able to just get on the phone for 20 minutes and then have everything mailed to me on an ongoing basis, maybe that's worth the out-of-pocket payment rather than waiting for insurance reimbursement. And so it's been really interesting to see that those business models are working, because this is a segment of women who have tremendous purchasing power and not a lot of time, because they're in their careers, they're taking care of children, and they're probably taking care of aging parents.
Dominique, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think let's just bring it back to there's so many incredible trends and innovations that we could have an entire afternoon talking about it. But if we just bring it back to every day, what we see a lot today is two trends specifically. One is at-home diagnostics. So for example, the tampon, a couple of years ago, it was your cycle product that you would use. And today it's your at-home diagnostic tool that is empowering you to understand your health for your cervix. Or we're seeing a lot in therapeutics, whether it's around having access to otherwise very expensive medication going through IVF or cancer. So, there is this, because the consumer is becoming increasingly sophisticated with the consumption of more accurate information and data and innovation and solutions. So the demand, which is positive, for innovation like diagnostic at-home solutions, telehealth, etc., for them to be continuously understanding and almost, I would say, besotted with their consumer, their user, and their patient. The onus is on them, and that investment has to go into the consumer because the demand is going to be there. And it's great because we are seeing things like, for example, an at-home diagnostic tool that is now our tampon, or an at-home diagnostic tool for an incredible STI testing kit. So this is really game-changing for the consumer in everyday life, and empowering and elevating us to invest into our health as an investment. It is not an expense. So I'm excited to see what continues to come out with innovators.
Yeah, really interesting examples, both highlighting how it's really the onus and also empowerment has come to the consumer to really choose the solutions that they want. Josh, maybe you'd have perspective also on how some of the larger sort of, if we think, traditional healthcare companies are also adapting their solutions to serve this need. I know you touched a bit on business models, but any specific solutions you'd highlight?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think when I think on the employer-sponsored care, so either employers, large employers, or payers, there's definitely you're seeing more of the we have our cookie cutter EAP that's out there to help direct people to benefits, but no one's able to use it or even know what's tailored for me. So we're seeing a lot of investment in how do we make that actually usable and get people to adopt tools, because employers are using a lot of buy-ups, either in the fertility or on the telehealth side, but people aren't necessarily even knowing that it's available to use. I do think we're seeing a lot on the, from a benefits perspective, like the highest amount of things that employers want is around financial and mental health. So tools for helping people actually be able to understand their healthcare costs. And of course, like things like 401k and things like that, but then things like behavioral health. So being able to have a telehealth visit or an in-network provider as well. And then also I think on the women's health as well. So your Maven clinics of the world out there that have seen a lot of I'd say a lot of growth in that regard. So virtual health with the ability to then see an in-network, in-person provider where it's necessary.
Yeah, I think one really interesting theme, all of you have also highlighted, is that consumers have now self-created so much more health data and insights around themselves. So, each of us now has this walking database of, insights that go way deeper than maybe, 10, 15 years ago we'd have just on our own health. I'm curious how that plays alongside traditional care pathways where, I might be receiving care directly from a provider. do you believe there is opportunity for this sort of consumer-generated health data set to further integrate with the provider health system, and what is holding us back? Maybe I'll start with Josh, and then if others have perspectives too.
I hope so. I absolutely believe. I do feel like people want to be involved in their healthcare decision making and have agency in that regard. So I do think there's a future where your data that you're able to do on your wearables or your symptoms, and you're able to send that into your EHR, and your doctor's able to see all that history coupled with lab history or prior visits to help with making a decision for you or your family that incorporates all of that. I do think there's challenges of why there hasn't been as much adoption. One is just a burnt out, overcapacity care delivery system where we don't have enough people to even meet demand. And then to ask providers right now within their existing workflows to do that in addition is really, it's a tall ask for them. And so that's been, I think, a tougher from an adoption standpoint. I think that also ties to incentives. So a lot of our payment models in the US are still around fee for service. If to be able to receive data from patients does help ultimately reduce costs, you need to be able to have that tie into how health systems make money. So if it's only tied to volume, then you may not be incentivized to do these things outside that may end up reducing care. So I think that goes to value-based care. How do you tie things to outcomes? So there is that incentivization to be able to want to help pull in extra data or help work with patients to help with how care is delivered. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add there, I have read that so much of what influences our health is actually outside of our clinical data. It's more around our activity and some also, of course, social determinants of health. And so all of those elements that we continually feed data to are things that could potentially strengthen the care that we receive from our providers. Dominique, do you have something to add?
I absolutely agree with Josh. I think there's this incredible need and demand for the social mobility of our own data and our own health, and that's really important. My question marks are about biases, being part of the population, half of the population of the world, where innovation and technology is not necessarily built with us in mind. And so I want to be able to see what is being addressed and how is our data being compiled and kept safe. We can bring up the topic of Roe versus Wade and what that impacted the fertility tracking industry just on one, and a wearable. And then we can talk about the behaviors of wearable, because the thing about most wearables is people don't wear them at night. So because of a light, and that is a statistic. So you lose a lot of data. So there's the behavior and the belief in owning and understanding our data. And a little like sexual health, that is a tapestry of culture and politics and policy and biases. So I want to know that the biases is being included. And then another element that we have to add on is AI, friend or foe. And how is that being addressed in our culmination of data? And again, will it, because AI is obviously about the future, but it has to have a past and extrapolate from the past. And the past, when it comes to women's health specifically, is like a large desert. And so that I want to know is being included. But the idea that there is this level of social mobility and empowerment, because social mobility is so important when we are empowered and armed with our own information about our health and decisions. And that excites me. So yes, but I totally agree with Josh. It is overwhelming, I think, from looking from internally from practices and workflows and companies and innovators, even starting out, to have to do that now, unless that is your core function, can be an overwhelming challenge. So I suppose the question is how and when and how will society support that, right, to empower us?
And specifically speaking to the femtech space, it's very hope-inducing, comforting to see that many of these consumer solutions have an element of also building towards more robust data sets, particularly around women's health. I've seen it more so in the hormonal health space so far, but just this openness, right, of the consumer also to go beyond themselves to kind of co-create and build a data set that will serve more women in the future as well, which is super interesting. So you talked a bit about social mobility, which kind of brings me to my next question. It's around, is healthcare consumerization largely an experience of the privileged today? We've of course talked about direct-to-consumer business models. Where are we on the path of really liberating access to better healthcare for all, and what might it take specifically for that? Josh, anything to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, at the end of the day, it probably does start with the more privileged. I think with a lot of products, if you think about the evolution of product development, right? It starts with probably the early innovators, and a lot of those probably have a willingness to spend more. I do think for people, if you already have your traditional insurance and then you feel like it's a one size fits all, it's not giving you what you need, it is a privilege to be able to then pay out of pocket for things that you feel like are best for you. But I do think things are changing, like we've been all discussing before. I think there's an ability for insurance companies to try to offer actual benefits that are right for each individual person. So if you have a chronic condition, you should be able to have a care team that is assigned to you, that is actively helping you manage that. And that might come with diagnostics to at-home care, to really across the board to help you manage things. And I do think there is a shift in some of that is happening. I also am seeing from at least on the earlier stage venture side, I think there's a lot of attention on the commercial side, but there are newer models around Medicaid. So for the underserved populations, which I think is really exciting. So there's, companies like CityBlock that are really focused on primary care for the underserved, and it's a really high touch model to help meet them where they are. I know on the women's health front, there's some exciting startups around virtual care or maternal care that are helping with targeting health equity and closing those gaps. So I think we're seeing technology that helps with making the cost structure work. And then I think it takes some brave innovators to go out there and try to go into areas that are underserved to make the economics work. So I think we're starting to see it trickle down to beyond just the privileged. What I'm seeing.
Yeah. And you touched on some great themes around how consumerization is one, creating this movement around more convenience and access for, say, the privileged population to have insights into their health more readily. But I've seen certainly that also does lend itself to creating solutions that actually enable better access to data outside of the health system. Just one example in maternal health that comes to mind is remote fetal monitoring, like Nuvo, for example, that works in that space, which really is addressing a key need that we have in the US around these maternity care deserts. One could see that as a more convenience-focused solution, but in fact, it also is extending access, which is really awesome. Great. So as a closing round, I thought it would be nice to hear from each of you around what you're most looking forward to seeing in consumerized healthcare in the next 5 years. And maybe I'll start with Liz.
Yeah, I think what really excites me about the consumerization of healthcare is that individuals are finally learning that health is really grounded in very simple things like sleep and nutrition and exercise. And it's nice to see that tech is available to tell us about how to establish that baseline of health, because I think that as we become better at interoception, which is the listening to our body and understanding it, that's a base case for wellness and health. So the fact that we can look at our heart rate or understand that extra glass of wine last night made my run more difficult today, or things like that, I think it's really exciting that we can become better stewards of our own body.
Dominique?
I mean, I have a wish list as long as my arm, but if I had to pick two, the first and foremost, which feeds into your question, but also to the question before with regards to how do we make better health accessible, affordable, and available to not just the privileged, starts with education. To know you have to have better sleep, you need to be educated about what sleep means and about your anatomy. Education is something that we're jumping to the good bit, and we're missing out on one of the most important investments, and that is education, knowledge, language, narrative, research. Education has to start somewhere, and it starts with the consumer, and everybody is responsible for education, number one. And number two, investment, because a lot of these innovations in health are being driven by not just women, but by people who understand why the solutions need to exist. And there still holds a lot of biases and consensus and challenges and loopholes where great innovators are not getting the funds to take this innovation to market and elevate consumers' qualities of life. So if I had to pick two in a very short space of time, it's education and investment. It's time to back us because we're living longer. And we all, I think, want to live healthy and happy. So education and investment is my two wish list. That's what I want to see.
Well shared. Josh?
Yeah, I think my list is, I think, ties well to what Liz and Dominique said. So I think one would be around transparency and trust. I think that is core to really how for a true consumerization, for that to really take off, is you have to have information about what things are going to cost or what value you're going to get, and if people don't have that, then you're not really allowing them to make the best informed decision for themselves. Some of that comes from regulatory bodies to make that happen. Other, I think, ties to education, is giving people the right education, like Dominique was saying, to be able to make empowered decisions. And then I think in openness to new types of care models, so more on your payers and your health systems that are out there. I think what Liz said is like the definition for well-being and health is different now. I think we have a better understanding of what it means, which means we can't use the same old traditional care models that are offered today. And I think a lot of the exciting companies that we saw at the beginning, I think there's opportunities to think about new ways to develop these care models that use a whole host of different tools, technology, as well as different types of services. But it takes an openness from your health systems on how to offer new things, and then on the payer side, how to reimburse and how to think about that. And until they're on board, it's hard to really move things beyond on the fringes. And so it takes I think both those things.
Yep. And I'll hone on the word trust that you shared. For consumers, I see that really around solutions that work, provide useful insights into health that then develops further trust among other consumers. And then in the professional sort of B2B space, I see that trust in terms of providers actually adopting some of these solutions, allowing consumers to bring that data into their visits to actually inform their care in a more holistic way. So with that, our short time actually has come to an end. Thank you all so much for your time today, Liz, Dominique, and Josh, for sharing your insights with everyone here. And thanks, Simone and Tech4Eva, for having us.
Thank you.
And I hope all your wishes come true. So now we have our second batch of pitches waiting for you. So here we go.
Today, I am pleased to introduce PrediLife, that innovates in the field of predictive medicine for breast cancer. As a woman, I'm totally affected. I would like to know, what is my breast cancer risk to anticipate? Did you know that the breast cancer is the most common cancer worldwide? 576,000 new cases in Europe in 2020, and 30% are fatal. 20% new cases are women under 50, women who are not part of national screening campaigns. The biggest problem to solve is that the high-risk women are not identified. 3/4 of breast cancer have no family history. We have the answer to this issue. We identify women at risk. We have developed a unique breast cancer predictive test combining genetic data, mammographic density, medical data, and family history. It allows a personalized follow-up for early detection from 50 years old. Women at high risk benefit from a better follow-up with adapted medical examination. Early detection of breast cancer allows less invasive treatment and a better chance of survival. Our breast cancer prediction test was selected by the EU for the largest European clinical trial on 55,000 women in 8 countries. We market our test to doctors and hospitals, as well as to companies as a health checkup for their employees. This is a massive market opportunity. Firstly, the employee benefits market. All companies of all sizes and in all sectors of activity are involved. Secondly, the use of personalized screening for 125 million women in Europe.
I've experienced the joy of a happy family, but I also know the pain of infertility. It's a struggle faced by millions of couples worldwide. Many dream of parenthood, but are left heartbroken by failed attempts, just as I was for 6 long years. At MIM Fertility, we are changing the game for fertility treatment. How? We've developed AI-powered technologies that increase every couple's chance of becoming parents. The current method, in vitro fertilization, is costly, emotionally draining, and only 30% successful. We are here to fix that. With a team of 30 AI and medical specialists, we've crafted 2 game-changing technologies. We designed an application to assist embryologists in the crucial task of selecting embryos. By using advanced AI, we transformed a subjective process into an objective one. This technology gives every couple an equal chance, regardless of the embryologist's experience. Then we rewrote the story of ultrasound ovarian monitoring, a crucial treatment step. In the past, multiple clinics visits were a roadblock for many. Our solution breaks those barriers by allowing tests in local gynecological offices. Our AI delivers precise results online, bridging the gap between the patient and the clinic. Well, the infertility market value is today $33 billion, growing at 8% annually, with global infertility cases rising by 10%. We target IVF clinics worldwide to supercharge their efficiency and slash costs. Currently, we are partnering with clinics to validate our tech, but we need your support. We're asking for $2.5 million to fund clinical trials and certification. Join us in making dreams come true, changing lives and reshaping the world of fertility treatment. Thank you. My name is Ula Sankowska and I'm CEO of MIM Fertility.
1 couple out of 6 is infertile, and this number is increasing yearly. But do you know what's worse than having such a medical condition? Absence of diagnosis, also known as idiopathic infertility. That's what 1 woman out of 5 and 1 man out of 2 have to go through. In other terms, no available test in the market can explain the reason behind their condition. That leads to years of medical wandering and guesswork-based treatment. At Beyond Genomics, we have developed the only test in the world capable of diagnosing every infertility, idiopathic included. In fact, the common denominator between infertile patients, idiopathic or not, is a defect in DNA damage repair and premature aging. Aging is reflected in what is known as aging hallmarks, whereas DNA damage repair is reflected in telomeres, which are the end caps of our chromosomes. But there was no technology in the market sensitive enough, yet scalable, capable of analyzing these biomarkers. It took us 30 years, but we have invented one, and clinically validated it for infertility, but not only. Given that your telomeres and aging hallmarks are synchronized within your body, we only need 1 blood drop to assess whether you are fertile or not, and or to explain your infertility if it is idiopathic, to better guide you towards a personalized treatment. Our technology is the market leader in telomeres analysis and is patented internationally, and nationally granted. Clinically validated for infertility, among others, and ongoing FDA approval. Founded only 2 months ago, we are already selling our tests in collaboration with 2 Swiss clinics. We are financially supported by major institutions, including Swiss Ministry of Economy and the Swiss Innovation Agency. We are open for collaborations, and may you need to assess your fertility status, our tests are available for sale. Don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
I am Monica, co-founder of Marina MedTech, and our goal is to boost IVF success. 190 million people worldwide are affected with infertility. And in vitro fertilization, one of the preferred infertility treatments, has success rates below 40%. The process is long, 3 cycles on average, expensive, 10,000 euros per cycle, and emotionally devastating. 50% of patients give up. The leading cause of IVF failure is embryo transfer, which depends on 2 main factors: embryo quality and uterine readiness for embryo transfer. Nowadays, producing and selecting high-quality embryos is possible, but there is no way to ensure the uterus is ready for embryo implantation. We have developed Synchrony, a first-in-class medical device that detects uterine readiness for embryo transfer. Unlike the standard of care, which is counting days, or the available test needing tissue biopsies and days for results, Synchrony is accurate, non-invasive, and results are immediate. Synchrony is based on detecting a new patented biomarker of uterine receptivity and using a machine learning-powered decision support tool, allowing highly effective embryo transfer. Our business is a monthly subscription for the device and software, and ultra-thin probes are sold as single-use devices. Our initial clients are private clinics in Europe, Japan, and the USA, with an addressable market of 2 billion euros. With a target launch in 2025, the next steps are optimizing the technology, completing pre-series manufacturing, and conducting a pivotal clinical trial for CE marking. Synchrony aims to become the new standard of care in embryo transfer procedures, and we shall open a new round in Q1 2024, and we invite you to join our vision that women undergoing IVF need a single IVF cycle to achieve a successful pregnancy. Thank you.
Welcome to MENA, the smartest therapeutic wearable period. If you'd like to have an impact in probably what is one of the largest markets within the femtech sector, then MENA is that impact. It uses a proprietary form of microcurrent technology that addresses the root cause of period pain, not just the symptomatic relief. Using an AI algorithm on app-based software, it hyper-personalizes to the user or individual's needs rather than just a blanket approach for symptomatic pain relief. This is the next phase of healthcare. This is the future of healthcare, and this is the future of the consumerization of healthcare. It addresses a market that affects a large proportion of particularly younger girls globally, that has an impact in both their social economic status as well as things like schooling and work and days missed of work and productivity. We are ready to bring this product to market and can bring it to market within 12 to 18 months, but we'd like to find the right commercial or investor partner to do so. So we'd love to hear from you. We're looking to raise around 2 million USD euro to make this happen. Please get in touch, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, my name is Amila Radita. I am a neuroscientist and the co-founder and CEO of Samphire Neuroscience. At Samphire Neuroscience, we're trying to address the fact that most women won't have solutions for their women's health needs that have been neglected before. We believe that menstrual health is mental health. In fact, 4 out of the 5 concerns that bother women the most around their periods are mental rather than physical, such as low mood, anxiety, irritability, anger, instability, and throughout. We know that about 82% of women self-identify as experiencing these symptoms based on a survey of over 32,000 women in the Netherlands. Furthermore, we know that the average woman will lose over 23 days every single year of productivity, every single year, just to PMS symptoms alone. And if any of that sounds surprising, it's because 76% of them would never tell their boss that that's the case. And so because of that, we developed the Samphire headband. The Samphire headband is our proprietary neurotechnology device that is completely wearable and looks like this hairband right here. You wear it on the top of your head, and with 20-minute sessions of stimulation, you're able to relieve the symptoms of PMS and menstrual pain, controlled by the two different parts of the hairband. This makes it the first medical solution for PMS symptoms, such as low mood, anxiety, insomnia, and irritability, as well as reduces pain sensitivity, which leads to most women not needing to take painkillers during their periods as well. So far, over the last 18 years that we've been in activity, we have received UK grants that have helped us in our R&D process. We have built up our proprietary prototypes. We have patent pending technology since then, and at the moment we are undergoing our EU CE marking as well as US FDA clearance for our Class 2A medical device. We're excited to be joining and we're excited to be launching in the EU and the US in Q1 2024. Thanks so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gaia, and I'm co-founder of HALE. We are on a mission to become Europe's first virtual clinic for female pain, starting from the most under-researched conditions like endometriosis, vulvodynia, and many other intimate pain conditions. These pathologies impact 1 woman out of 4, and they affect physical functionalities, mental well-being, and sexual health. Daily care is essential to manage these conditions effectively and make treatment effects long-lasting. Our first product is a digital care app to manage pain at home. The app allows users to track their symptoms daily and receive personalized insights, reports, and treatment plans based on their data and their goals, covering everything from physiotherapy to mental health. We've just raised our pre-seed round and built the product, onboarding the first 100 users in the first month. We currently have an 80% retention rate and very high engagement rates as well. Our business model is a B2C subscription freemium model, but we're soon expanding into B2B agreements and partnerships as well. And for instance, we're developing right now a collaboration with a German university to conduct a study together. To reach our vision, we're going to soon complement our digital home offering with a more medical counterpart, allowing patients to actually build and pick their own virtual care kit. We are here today because we want to make a real and significant impact on women's health, and we're looking for partners, investors, and potential collaborators that share our vision. If you're one of those, I'd be happy to connect and explore how we can make a difference together. Thanks a lot.
Great, that was our second batch of companies. Now finally we will move on to the fireside chat. It will be led by Stasia Ombreski of RH Capital. She's a mentor of Tech4Eva as well. And Stasia is managing director at RH Capital, which invests mainly in innovations in women's reproductive health. So Stasia, the floor is yours. And I believe CF Vina is also here. Yes.
Great. Hello, everyone. I am Stasia Obremski. I'm the managing director and founder of RH Capital. We're a women's health focused fund based in San Francisco and Boston. We have 20 companies in our portfolio now, Testmate being one of them. So full disclosure, we're a little biased, but very excited to have Savina here this morning and to share with you all her journey as an entrepreneur and a founder. So let me turn it over to Savina. So one request that we have is if you have questions that come up during the conversation, please just put them in the chat and I will try to field those. We really would love this to be a dialogue. I'm going to prompt Savina with a few opening questions and then really want to address the things you would like to hear about. So please put your questions in the chat and maybe we'll leave a little time at the end for Q&A. But Savina, so great to see you this morning. Why don't you just share a little bit about who you are? And I always like to start with, you know, what is your origin story? What is your why? So maybe start there and then we'll take it from there.
That's great. Thank you so much, Stasia. So hi, everyone. My name is Savina. I am the CEO and co-founder of Testmate Health. So Testmate's mission is to really make access to STI testing easy and affordable, regardless of who you are or where you live. And we achieve this by developing disposable kits, a bit like pregnancy tests or COVID rapid antigen tests, that provide PCR quality results for common sexually transmitted infections directly at home. So there's no need to send samples to the lab for processing. So to share a little bit about my background, I am a medical doctor by background. I grew up in Switzerland, but I trained in London. I worked in the NHS, but probably by symptom of, living around the Geneva area, I always had a really strong interest in global public health. Ended up doing a degree in that as well. And just by total luck and chance, ended up on a WHO work stream where we were looking for a good diagnostic tool. So the WHO had found that there was a real spike in complications relating to undiagnosed sexually transmitted infections in pregnant women. And they really wanted to look for a low-cost test that we could deploy in antenatal care settings to kind of screen pregnant women. And the context for this was really in, low middle income countries where mothers to be would travel really long way to the clinic to get their tests, but they would not necessarily stay for the result and stay to get the treatment. So I spent some time working in Tanzania, kind of looking at this and seeing this firsthand. So when you ask about my why, that's really my why. I really want women who kind of make that journey and have that understanding of why it's important to get tested, to have the ability to also get that result and get the treatment at the same time.
Right. So that was your inspiration, and I love that story. So tell us how you got from being a sort of global public health physician working with the WHO in Tanzania to the light bulb or the epiphany that said, there's an unmet need here. I think I can solve this problem, and I'm gonna make this transition, because it's a pretty big transition. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were in the process of putting together our data and preparing it for publication. And I was actually on the phone to my dad, who had been in contact with the University of Geneva, leveraging a technology there to do rapid DNA detection in the food supply chain. So he was kind of sharing with me kind of this technology, and I was sharing with him, oh gosh, we really need a rapid DNA way to detect STIs in remote settings. And we said, surely there's another adaptation of that technology. So that's really where the transition happened. We tried it in the lab and it worked. And that was in 2020. So that was really the beginning of the journey. And since then, it's definitely been a bit of a roller coaster, but excited to be where we are today.
Yeah, so I love that, particularly in women's health, which, as we all know, has been sort of underinvested in, but you've identified a complementary technology that was existing in another space, in this case agricultural, and now you're adapting it to a particular need in the health space. So then you had sort of a why, and then you had a how, but then you had to sort of actually say, okay, what next? Am I just going to find someone else to do this for me? Am I going to make the leap? So what inspired you to give up medicine and to join this entrepreneurial journey? And then I guess for other entrepreneurs on the call, what was the first thing you did, and what kind of support system did you build around you? Did you look for a co-founder? Did you look for mentors? Did you join some accelerators? Did the Swiss environment you were in provide any early resources? So just take us through that early part of that journey.
Yeah, I think I looked at a couple of different ways of how to approach it. In the first instance, I actually approached the hospital where I was working at in the UK. And there, I think the innovation department wanted me to sign a contract handing over 90% of profits over 100K in revenue, which is pretty wild. So that was a pretty good push factor to look elsewhere. And then Switzerland kind of became the natural choice, considering that's where I grew up, considering that's where the technology was based. And I applied to an accelerator program called Mass Challenge, which is based in Lausanne in Switzerland. And I kind of said to myself, if I get in, that's kind of the universe's sign to say, you should give this a go. And so when we were accepted, I left full-time work as a clinician. I moved back to Switzerland, and I basically treated this accelerator program like it was a business school, kind of attending every lecture. And this was pre-COVID, so really all the lectures were in person, and using that as a way to kind of build out my network in this space. And, we're very lucky in Switzerland, where there's a very strong network, an ecosystem of medtech and life science individuals, either coming from startup or from industry or academia. And that's where I started to connect with mentors. I started to connect with kind of the Swiss coaching programs. And I also started to connect with the understanding of what grant funding was available out there. And, when I look at what really propelled TestMate to kind of take this from like an idea to a concept, was really the support that we got from the Swiss government in the provision of grant funding for us to de-risk, certain technological aspects, and to kind of get us ready to get us investor ready.
Right. And I know you did a couple accelerator programs, including Tech4Eva. So do you want to share a little bit about with the other participants what that experience was like for you? And then what, after you graduated from that program, what was sort of the immediate next steps in terms of your company formation and your journey?
Absolutely. So, there are so many great accelerators out there, and each one brings something slightly different. And I think what's so wonderful about Tech4Eva, obviously, is the focus on women's health, and again, fostering this community around women's health. We've heard in some of the conversations already today, some of the challenges that are associated with it. And, one of the key learnings I've had over the last few years is the importance to leverage kind of experience in this space, and leverage the experience from people who've done it before. And I think what Tech4Eva provides is access to those people who have done it before, and to also provide a more international community outside of just, for example, Switzerland for me. Because I do think that, we need to build in, as a Swiss startup, that global and international perspective into the DNA of the company building right from the beginning. And Tech4Eva as a platform is a really wonderful way to do that and to access that international mindset right from the beginning.
Yeah, I love that, work locally, but really think globally from the beginning. And I mean, other ways you can do that are in terms of your advisors, right? Your board, your investors, to really try to look beyond your home market, to really think about ultimately when the company scales, what kind of networks and contacts do you want across the globe. So that's an interesting insight. I love the way that you really leveraged early non-dilutive grant funding in order to de-risk, some of the, again, very early, right, prototyping, validation, proof of concept. From an investor standpoint, the more we see a company has relied on that, or has, used that effectively to de-risk the technology, again, from the investor perspective, it makes it easier for us to get to yes. And I know that in a number of countries, there are more and more funding available for women's health initiatives. So I would encourage all of the participants to evaluate that as a source of early funding for the company. So let's talk about a subject that's always near and dear to everybody's heart, and that is fundraising, which is, as you know, as the CEO of a startup, something that you probably spent a disproportionate amount of time on. And why don't you take us a little bit through maybe just a recap of sort of where you are now, how many raises you've done, what your strategy has been through that. And then again, as an investor, I can add some perspective in terms of, how we looked at this company at a much earlier stage. But why don't you start and just talk about what your strategy and your journey has been on the fundraising side?
Yeah. So In terms of fundraising, so Testmate has now done 2 equity rounds. So we did a first kind of pre-seed round of about 1.6 million. And then we just closed a seed round led by RH Capital of 6 million, which we're really excited about. And then in addition to that, we've raised a total of about 2.5 million in non-dilutive funding. So the bulk of that funding, I would say, was front-loaded kind of at the pre-seed stage. And, as we just mentioned, it was so critical in helping us kind of de-risk the key technological components. And I would say the strategy the company took was really in, as I'm sure many other companies do, but is to really understand what milestones and value inflection points we need to hit from a company perspective, but also from an investor perspective, and trying to get those as aligned as possible. And I would say that the generation of data and numbers and statistics is so important. And sometimes that can be difficult in an early stage company, is like, how do you put those points in your roadmap to demonstrate, okay, like key inflection points. So if you're in between like a stage of development, or if you're pivoting from one prototype to another prototype, I think having some conversations around what that precisely looks like and discussing those with investors is really, really important. And, we just raised our last round in a very difficult economic climate. And we started raising in January, February time, just as I think SVB was going under, amongst other things. And it created a lot of uncertainty. And I think that resilience as a strategy was also really important. But the way that we approached it was, we kind of developed a little bit of a CRM, like a sales CRM, a sales process as to who were the investors that we wanted to speak to. And then we had a wish list of, okay, these are the investors that are really in our space, that we really fit into their thesis, really, really well. And then we went out to the board and our existing investors to understand who had a contact to these investors and how can we get a warm introduction, to these investors. And then the rest that we had absolutely no introduction to, it was a cold process, which I know oftentimes people can say, oh, maybe it's not worth it, or it's not as successful. But from the round that we just closed, we have a 50-50 split from warm introductions and cold reach outs. So I wouldn't underestimate it as a great way to reach out to investors and share your deck. A lot of investors these days have a very sophisticated process in place to review these decks. And so I would just encourage everyone who's fundraising to not be, to definitely still use it as a tool in addition to some of these warm introductions that your network can make for you.
Yeah, and just in terms of the origin story between RH Capital and Testmate, I think we were originally a cold outreach, right? And I don't know if you want to tell that story, and then I'll continue it from there a little bit.
Yeah, so we did a cold reach out to another VC fund in California, and they, luckily looked at our deck and they said, hey, we love what you're building, but you're too early for us. But let us introduce you to RH Capital, who invests more in your space. And then she made, you could call that a warm introduction then to RH Capital, but still quite a cold reach out. And then we spoke to RH Capital. I think I shared this with you, Stacia. We spoke to RH Capital the day that we were closing our pre-seed round. And we had such a great conversation that we ended up extending our pre-seed round just to take in RH Capital. And yeah, now we've been working together for a couple of years.
Yeah, and from the investor standpoint, pre-seed is a little early for us. We're very focused on women's reproductive health, so we certainly understood the unmet need in the STI diagnostic space, and we were really looking for an at-home test to result technology. And we had talked to 4 or 5 other companies which I think is why when we heard about you, we were sort of already primed and very open to learning about new technology. So the fund did come into the pre-seed round with a relatively modest check, and gave us an opportunity to get to know the team, get to know the technology, and we're impressed with the progress that had been made. And again, it's all about continuing to build confidence with your board and your investors, right? You're given a set amount of money, be very clear about what you're going to use that money to do, execute on that plan, and then that sort of sets you up for success for the next fundraise. And so I guess in January of about a year ago, right, we sat down with Savina, and the round size, our check sizes are still relatively small in the grand scheme of things, but for this size of round that she was raising, it made absolute sense for our fund to lead. And so we rolled up our sleeves, did our required due diligence, even for follow-on investment, continued to be excited about what the company was doing, and set the terms for the deal, working with Savina and the board. And then I think spent a lot of time. My partner Elizabeth actually led the deal, but I think Elizabeth, again, then really went out and made those warm introductions and shared our diligence. We do pretty deep and extensive technical due diligence, and we old-fashionedly write that up in memo form. And we don't share that with the company, but we are willing to share that with other investors, particularly investors who are not necessarily as familiar with the women's health space as we are, or the company. And we feel that that's a good way to sort of build the ecosystem and get more mainstream health investors and diagnostic companies engaged. We also now, since we've been at this for 5 years, have a always broadening network of other investors we can reach out to. Again, knowing that same sort of, is it in their investment thesis? Does it fit with stage and type of sector that they invest in? And so I think we partnered with a company to really bring in a number of other investors into this round. And again, it was oversubscribed, so in a very difficult market. So congratulations to you, Savina, and your team for that great milestone. Anything else you want to say about fundraising, or just the process, and then I'd love to open it up to the audience to see if there are any specific issues or questions that we can ask or that we can answer for you.
I think maybe one last comment to add to that, is there's always kind of the rule, and there's always the exception. And I think sometimes on investor websites, they can be a little bit scary about what they stipulate their rules to be. But I think being able to kind of have a conversation with them, for example, like minimum ticket sizes or valuations, there's a lot of power in a conversation to understand if there's any wriggle room there. And just in this instance with RH Capital, them putting in kind of a small ticket at the beginning to then follow the progress of the company, to then put in a larger ticket later on, I think from a fundraising strategy perspective could be an interesting one for more women's health companies to kind of explore and leverage.
Yeah. And I just, we talked to a lot of companies. We do have a process on our, website. We have a pitch us form where, you should fill out the form and send your deck. And every week we go through our deal meeting and we review all of those submissions. And, we as a team decide whether it makes sense to move these forward in our funnel. So we just encourage anyone to sort of use that mechanism for RH Capital, and a lot of other funds have that too. And again, they do get looked at, and it is a legitimate way of getting in front of the investors in a relatively streamlined, organized process. I do think warm introductions also help. So I would encourage you to do that as well. I think the other thing the advice I always give to entrepreneurs who are starting out on the fundraising journey is, before you even pick up the phone and start typing out messages, is to sort of step back, and Savina, it sounds like you did this, and think about if you could wave a magic wand, who would be the 5 investors you want on your cap table? And not so much by name, but by type. For example, I want an investor who really understands the reimbursement environment, or who has connections to healthcare systems, or understands the manufacturing process. So if you can sort of describe just at a high level what kind of investor would really bring you value as an entrepreneur, then you should definitely start there, and then use that as the basis of your research to then fill in with names. So you start with sort of characteristics, then you get the actual fund names, and then you, as you say, like a sales process, go to your network and say, does anyone know anyone who works at these prospects, and then get introductions that way. So often we find investors just start sort of reaching out, entrepreneurs are just start reaching out and cold calling without sort of a clear strategy of how they want to organize themselves. So we have a few questions. So in our remaining time, let me take some of these and see what we got here. Good question. How does RH Capital handle investments that could be indirect competitors to one of your portfolio companies? That's a really good question. And I'll tell you how we handle it as a fund. Other funds have very different philosophies about this. So that's a good question to ask investors when you're engaging with them. So we do have kind of a non-competitive policy, meaning that if we invest in a company that's working in the STI diagnostic space, we would not invest in another company that's also in that space, or a potential competitor. And that's really because we like to roll up our sleeves and really partner with our portfolio companies. We often have board seats or board observer seats. And, as having that view on the company, you're just privy to a lot of confidential information. And it would be really hard to, even if it's held with 2 different partners at the fund, but just to know that your firm had access to that kind of information. And we're always reporting to our investors on our portfolio companies. So for us, it's just too difficult. Now because we're in the women's health space, we do have some companies who didn't start out competing, but as their business models are evolving, they're sort of getting closer together. And there's nothing we can do about that other than, just to acknowledge it. What we think is more likely is that, we have a lot of companies in our portfolio where I think ultimately Suvina, when she gets to the distribution strategy of the company, can be potential partners, which we love. And we think there are lots of opportunities for sort of adjacencies and partnerships across the portfolio. But I would ask that question because different firms have different policies around that. Next question is, do you have any other angels or investors you would recommend if that were the case, that you cannot invest in a startup because of the startups in your portfolio? Again, possibly, depending on what it was, we might know people who, even though we couldn't invest because we have a company, would there be another fund we could recommend? So you could ask that question. The other thing I will say, again, you have to remember that VC funds also do fundraising. We're in the market every couple of years going to limited partners to try to raise capital for us to invest. So we feel your pain. We have been in your seat before, so we have a lot of empathy for what you're going through. One thing I have learned is that a fast no is a gift. So, be grateful and appreciative of the time, and, take your no and move on. And, you do have to have a bit of a thick skin. Don't take it personally. There are lots of reasons why it's not the right investment fit, but the faster you get that no, the more you can move on to the yeses. So that's been an important learning for us. Let's see. Does RH Capital act as a lead investor? Yes, we will lead under the right circumstances. And that's really around the size of the round, the stage of the company, where we are in our investment cycle, and does it make sense for us to invest at this particular point in time? How is the process when the investment goes to a European startup? I don't know what that means. I think the only thing that was different about Europe, and Savina, you can speak to this, because we're not familiar with Swiss law. We hired Swiss counsel to help on the legal due diligence and to work with the company counsel on the documents. Savina, do you want to talk about whether because we were a US investor that was different than your Swiss investors in terms of the process?
I would say the process was the same. I think the key difference is some US investors are open to investing in non-US companies and others just aren't. So it's just about targeting that correctly. We did have another 2 other US funds that came into this round, and there were some questions relating to tax, to the state of the company, what implications their investment would have on their fund from like a tax perspective, and we had to answer like a form to just stipulate that, to just kind of be more precise about the way the business was being run. But apart from that, there was no other difference. As Stacia said, they engaged with Valdervis, who are a very known law firm in Switzerland, to kind of perform all the due diligence. And that gave confidence to the US investors. But that was it really.
Yeah. And I would say some firms do require non-US firms to have a US subsidiary before investing. So you just need to ask that question. As part of your again, you should be doing as much due diligence on the investors which you're reaching out to as the investors are doing on you. We love it when our when companies say, can we get references? Can we talk to some of your other portfolio companies? We want to know what it's like to work with you guys. And again, it's a two-way street. It's a partnership. And so you need to be as curious about what it's like to work with this firm as they are about underwriting your particular company and investment. So Simone, I think we're about at time. Savina, is there any last comments or questions or you want to pose to the group?
No, maybe just to say that I've already I've seen a couple of LinkedIn requests come through, which is great. I'm really, really happy to connect with anyone in the space, share a little bit more about my experience, or if you have a question that you would like to kind of address directly to me, I'm really happy to do so. So I'm available for that.
Then with that, we'll say goodbye. Thank you for your attention today, and we'll turn it back over to Simone.
Thank you.
Those were some very practical wisdom and advice. So I just have one last call for action. We have our closing event coming up November 30th. So we hope that many of you can join either online or in person. And I thank you for joining today. If you'd like to connect with us, here are our contact details and social media accounts, and continue helping to improve women's health. We're happy that you're part of the cause. Thank you and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.